Hello, I'd like to teach you a little bit about how to use the LabVIEW item in the R9 software. First, what we need to do to enable a LabVIEW VI in the R9 is from hardware space we have to add the LabVIEW item, which can be found by going into the search bar, typing lab, and we place this LabVIEW VI item down here. Okay, so if we look in the properties here, you'll see a VI file name, enable, and wait for completion. On hardware space, you only need to put anything in this field here if you want a VI to launch on startup. So if you have some initialization VI, you can put the VI file name in here, which you can browse for. And you click the enable box. That way, when the controller is initializing, once it gets to this step of the hardware space, it will then open that LabVIEW VI. Now I say VI and not executable. This version, or this LabVIEW item here, requires that you have a LabVIEW development license on the computer because the VI is like source code. Okay, so now that we've added this LabVIEW item here, we can go to a procedure. I'll show you how to modify a procedure rather than make a new one. So what I'll do, let's say I want to call a VI at every location in an image scan. So first I'm going to open my pixel scan AFM 5. I'm going to Control A, Control C to select all and copy. I'll make a new procedure. Control V to paste. I can now call this pixel scan with LabVIEW. And I'll change the procedure type to scan. That way, this new procedure will appear under our new procedure list. So now we have pixel scan with LabVIEW. Well, we haven't changed anything, so I'll show you how to do that. Okay, for this particular IHL, we move from pixel location to pixel location, and then we sample the data. So I'll assume that after we move to a pixel location, but before we sample the data, you want to do something in LabVIEW. So I'm going to expand this out a little bit, just to give us a little more room. And if you'd like, you can hold the control button when you select items, so you can select multiple things at a time. See, but I'm just concerned with moving these items here to give a little more space. So now I'm going to place an activate. I'll wire it to the beginning of this image pixel. I can rename this to call VI. Now I'll scroll down to the bottom because the last item I added was LabVIEW VI. So here we'll show all the properties. In here is where we will select the VI. So let's say our VI triggers a CCD camera at each location. So I would select my trigger spectrometer or trigger CCD VI, which then it would have a name in here. Name. We would have enable. Now, if we want to wait for the VI to complete before we move on to the next portion of the procedure, which in this case we would select wait for completion. Now let's say as an alternative, let's say you have already compiled this VI to be an executable. Another option, we have run app. It's at the bottom of our list. We can wire it there as well. And here we can locate our executable. So in case we had compiled the software or the VI to have an executable, we can put that in this space instead. If there are any command line arguments, they can be entered here. And again, you can toggle whether or not you want to wait for the executable to finish before moving on to the next step. So now, when you launch, well, remember to save. That way, your changes will be saved. So now when you initialize, it will go through and compile that new program along with the rest of these and download them to the R9. Then we would select the pixel scan with LabVIEW item. Now when we press start, this will run just like the old scan procedure, except now we'll stop at each pixel, and before we sample the data, we will launch the VI and call that executable. So hopefully this was a nice quick introduction for you for how you can call VIs and executables from the R9 software in procedure space. Thank you for watching.